Happened last night at Acun Ilıcalı's fan Q&A at the MKM Stadium, and we'll also cover all of the Hull City breaking news from the last day. So let's crack straight into it with, first of all, Rosinia has revealed his first statement following his departure from Hull City last Tuesday. It's a nice little read. I've got it over on my Twitter page, so if you want to go and click the link in the description, go over to my X or Twitter page, whatever it's called now. You can give it a read. And I think it's a really nice act from Rosinia coming out after being sacked from a position that he maybe in his sort of personal preference shouldn't have been sacked from. But he's got nothing but nice things to say about the club, about Acun, about Tan, about the players, about the fans. It's a nice little read, something to sort of lift the spirits up after the Rosinia sacking. A little bit of transfer news to take with a grain of salt. It's from that EFL transfer hub thing. So very, very small grain of this happening. But I thought I would share it just in case something did develop from it. But Hull City are reportedly looking into signing Sheffield United defender and left-back Max Lowe. The 27-year-old has appeared 9 times for Sheffield United this season, recording 1 assist, which came against Luton Town. Interesting one if it is, if there is any truth within it. Left back, we're reportedly looking at getting Ryan Giles in. We already have Matty Jacob. He is known to do a job over at right back, which I mean, a bit of cover over there wouldn't do us any harm, considering we probably will be letting Cyrus Chrissy go this summer. Louis Coyle, yeah, he's a fantastic right back. He's had a fantastic season, but as we've seen in points this season, he can pick up injuries. He can be out for a few games at a time, and we don't really want to be doing Regan Slater the disservice of putting him at right back when he has so much to offer in midfield. And then one final thing before we crack on into the full report of what came out from yesterday's or last night's fan Q&A, which seemed to be quite a whirlwind of events over at the MKM Stadium. A second Goal of the Month award for Ozan Tufan as his strike against QPR, which won the goal of the season, has been the Goal of the Month for Hull City, grabbing him his second award this season. Okay, let's crack into the Acun Ilıcalı fan Q&A over at the MKM Stadium. So many thought, like myself, we may have seen Walter appear at this. We may have got the official announcement. We may have got the actual answers we was looking for with the Tim Walter signing. Doesn't seem to be the case. I'll dive on into it when we get into it in the report, but it does sound like Tim Walter is nearly nailed, and I think Acun said 95% sure. Just going to be waiting for the finalisations of everything before it gets done. But I'm going to be reading through the Hull Live, Hull Daily Mail report from Baz Cooper. So you know it's credible. Titled "Burner Accounts: Rosinia, Alsop and Walter." Top takeaways from Acun Ilıcalı's Hull City Q&A. Can't get my words out this morning. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. So we'll dive straight into it with the first account. So I won't go into sort of the little subheadings and stuff. So Acun's burner accounts, that's the first subtitle. We'll start off with a mildly humorous one. The owner admitted that he had fake Twitter accounts to keep tabs on what the Hull City fans are saying about the club, as well as journalists covering the Tigers, both positive and negative, to try and help him keep a handle on the feeling within the Hull City community. Ilıcalı revealed it wouldn't be possible through his main social media accounts, so instead he operates what is known as burner accounts to keep up to date, which I find is somewhat a little bit funny. Like, you don't know where Acun is really looking. Is he fully in depth with all of the going on behind the scenes? Which it would make sense considering the moves that he's made, the stuff that he has been doing, and the fan engagement that he has really racked up. It would make sense that he's got these burner accounts, as he says, working on behind the scenes. But it just truly knows. Speak your opinions to an extent over on Twitter, and Acun may see it, and if there's enough support behind it, it may happen, which I'm sure has been the catalyst of some changes at the club already through Ilıcalı's reign. Next up is Rosinia's exit. So did actually come out with some press conferences last week after the exit happened, but he was happy to answer some more questions last night, and he has this to say. As he said before in media interviews, Ilıcalı expressed how he was impressed with Rosinia's very first interview. Ilıcalı thanked the 39-year-old for moving City away from relegation danger and into the top half of the table, but felt he underachieved given the players at his disposal and the style of play was too slow. So a little bit there of the blame going on to the league position there, which is interesting. Considering in the press conferences last week, he was more hammering the nail on the style of play and what he didn't want the club to be playing. So, an interesting one there. Ilıcalı referenced wanting to be entertained at the MKM Stadium, which we all want. And then this is where things took a little time. But he picked out Ryan Alsop, suggesting the goalkeeper needed a rest and required taking out of the firing line at points in the season. Something the manager didn't agree with and caused significant friction for a period of time. So, I think that links back to the burner accounts there. We saw on Twitter, we saw on all of the social media platforms, fans wanting Alsop to get gone and Ivor Pando to come in. We'll go on to Ivor Pando now. The pair also fell out over January signing Ivor Pando, with Rosinia suggesting he didn't feel the Croatian youngster was good enough to play in the Championship. Yeah. The man who brought him in didn't feel he was good enough to play in the Championship. While there were disagreements over the amount of time striker Nero Ohio had on the pitch, with Ilıcalı at pains to make it clear he was the only trying to advise his manager to go no further. Essentially, the manager, Rosinia would live and die by his decisions, and his decisions alone, particularly if he ignored advice. Interestingly, Ilıcalı is credited Rosinia for always talking with logic, hasn't ruled out working with him again in the future, saying we could meet again, maybe. So an interesting one there. A lot of blame going on, not blame, but sort of things behind the scenes that we now know. Ilıcalı's talking with a little bit of sense about some things from behind the scenes. Of course, you've got to take things with hindsight at this point now, haven't you? Nero Ohio, yeah, we was all looking for a bit more playing time from Nero Ohio. Whether it actually came into fruition, it wouldn't have worked out possibly, who knows. The same thing with the goalkeeper situation. Ilıcalı just completely slating out Ryan Alsop for having a spot next season, really, hasn't he? So yeah, it's an interesting one. The going-ons behind the scenes, we will say. And this seems to be really that fracture that we was talking about in sort of the videos last week, where we knew there was some fractions happening from January onwards, leading up to the departure of Rosinia. It seems that these were sort of the foundations for them fractures coming through sort of player suggestions and bits like that. A little bit of an interesting one, I must say. Next up, the fire alarm. A surreal evening took another twist after half an hour when the stadium's fire alarm system announced there was a need to evacuate. So host Alex Burgess duly asked everyone to make for the fire exits, and off they went out into the evening air for 10 minutes or so, according to the chairman. In Turkey, you just wait until the fire alarm stopped and crack on as normal. So, yeah, I just hope you're understanding how mental this evening was, the crazy extent of it, and we still have a little bit more to cover. Recruitment update. So this is cracking into sort of the January, the going-ons from January, the going-ons from last summer into this summer, and what will happen this summer. Ilıcalı spoke about his brain team of people around him who helped to advise on all the club matters, including recruitment. On the subject of recruitment, since he bought City 2.5 years ago, he ranks it as a 7.5 out of 10. And I must say, I would agree with that. Considering the recruitment that he's brought in, the players that he's brought in, it's quite staggering for a club at the level of Hull City. Adding that he wouldn't give 7, but he couldn't also give 8 for a team he feels is very strong. The future of Dukan Sinik was raised once more, as Hull Live reported earlier this month. We also reported it here earlier this month. Dukan Sinik is possibly returning back for pre-season, and Ilıcalı has said it. he will return to pre-season for training, and Ilıcalı questioned why he wasn't utilised, saying his confidence and value reduced. So that may have been some reason behind why Dušan Šenić woke up in the morning and felt his leg and felt that he couldn't play because his confidence was feeling a bit devalued, which I understand that he did have a lot of injury issues last season and sort of the season beforehand, so maybe that fed into some of the decisions from Rosinia, but Šenić's getting one more final hurrah, one final chance to prove himself. Lone striker Liam Delap remains a target this summer, but Ilıcalı admitted it's a 50-50 that he'll come back. There is some Premier League interest there, so yeah, it's a debatable one. It's going to be more of, I think, not so much the financial side, but more if Delap wants to come back, especially given there's no Rosinia. I think it's more verging to the fact that he'll probably look elsewhere, especially if Rosinia goes to a club maybe in the Premier League or a club that's knocking on the doors of the Prem. He might go there if the funds are available. A spectator in the crowd likened Harry Vaughan to George Best. I mean, it is what it is. And asked why he was loaned to Bristol Rovers. But the owner backed Rosinia's judgment in needing to send the youngster out to get regular football, whilst also explained that Billy Sharp provided a huge amount in the dressing room, even if he didn't work out in terms of goals. Interesting one on Harry Vaughan that was a fan questioning why he was loaned out. I think the loan out was the right decision. It just didn't work out for him out on loan. We reported about this a few times since the season's ended, but he just hasn't had the game time over at Bristol Rovers. I think he needed the game time. He needed sort of the game time without the risks to really develop his game, and unfortunately didn't get that at Bristol Rovers. So whether there is a plan to send him out on loan to a side where he will get the guaranteed game time next season, who knows. Billy Sharp, I think that's what he was brought in for, not for the large amount of goals. Whether that would have been a bonus, it didn't happen obviously, but Billy Sharp was definitely brought in to help out the young strikers in the squad, to help out in the dressing room, and it sounds straight from Ilıcalı that it has happened in that way. Ilıcalı has also reiterated the club have no desire to sell Jacob Greaves or Jane Philogene. We've reported this already, and it's good news, but will not keep any players who don't want to be at the MKM Stadium should they wish to move on. We've already spoke about this. Jacob Greaves, Jane Philogene, probably only going to move on if there is a high money bid from a Premier League club, which in Jacob Greaves and Jane Philogene's case sounds a little bit likely. Another key thing on recruitment surrounding this club's transfer policy and how his team of scouts will identify players and then put it into their head coach for final approval. And if he gives it, then they will endeavour to finish the deal. So that's sort of a little bit of going on behind the scenes once again about how the recruitment process works at Hull City. Tim Walter. Yes, Tim Walter has got a little bit of an announcement in this one. Nothing concrete, as I said at the start of the video, but it is this. Tim Walter is the leading candidate to take over Hull City, and Ilıcalı says bringing in a new manager is a trial. Reiterating that the interest in the job is reason to be proud, and adding that he's spoken to 10 to 12 football experts in Germany, and all of them said so many positive things about the 48-year-old being Tim Walter, and that his football mentality was what he's been dreaming of. So it seems that Tim Walter and Acun Ilıcalı seem to be the perfect fit together, but does it work the best for Hull City? Only time will tell, as Acun Ilıcalı went on to say that everything looks good, and he's optimistic about confirming the appointment in the next week, giving it a 95% chance of being completed, but admitting Walter does have interest from other clubs elsewhere. So hopefully he decides to come to Hull City, because we've seen this before where managers have nearly signed for Hull City and then gone on to work elsewhere. One name raised by many fans in recent days has been Pedro Martins, who was at the MKM Stadium and met Ilıcalı and this particular journalist before a Tigers game against Luton Town. Having shaken hands on taking over only for somebody confused his mind, and then he went to Arabia for the money was the reason. An interesting one there on why we didn't get Pedro Martins. So, that is all she wrote, so to speak, from Acun Ilıcalı's wacky press conference and Q&A last night. Certainly an evening that the fans in the Kingston suite will not forget, and I'm sure plenty of fans reading the reports and the going-ons afterwards won't forget in a hurry as well. Sounds like Tim Walter is coming in through the door within the next few days, and it sounds like this summer will be an exciting one nonetheless for Hull City. So make sure you like and subscribe, as I will have plenty more Hull City news and content as it comes out with hopeful daily videos. And tomorrow I'm looking at maybe doing a little bit of a history, a tour down memory lane, so to speak, about that FA Cup final, as it is 10 years ago to the day from tomorrow. So stay tuned for that one by liking and subscribing, and up the Tigers!